Hey, fashion class. It's Mr. Donahue here. This week and next week, I'm going to be talking to you guys about making masks. I know not everybody has a sewing machine at home, but I want to talk to you a little bit about how you would go about sewing one of these masks if you did have a sewing machine. Hopefully some of you guys are going to get the opportunity to do that. And for those of you who don't have a sewing machine at home, I'm going to show you how to do a no-sew mask next week. But before we can even talk about sewing things, one of the things that we never got to talk about during class before the shutdown is how to make a pattern and what a pattern is. So let me go grab one real quick, and I'm going to show you guys how to use a pattern.
All right, guys, so this is a pattern. This is actually a shirt I was making for a class this semester, and so I still have my pattern kit. And you can buy patterns for all different types of things, for costumes, for clothing, for aprons, for you name it. But people don't just make clothes out of thin air. They take a pattern, and what a pattern does is it comes with directions like this, and you can fold the directions out, and it'll show you all the different parts that you need to create and cut out. And it'll tell you step by step like what you should put together in order to make clothing. Okay, so that's something we didn't really get a lot of time to talk about in class that we were going to get to next. Pattern paper is usually like this. It's usually wax paper. So like this is the sleeve of the shirt, and I'm holding my iPad. I try to get further away so you can see the whole thing. But basically, you would open this up, pin it to your fabric. And then when you pin it to your fabric, you cut your fabric out, and you'd be able to create the sleeve here to make this shirt. So we're gonna make a mask. There's different types of masks, but I've been making this style, okay? And I think I like it a lot because it covers your nose. It comes up your nose. And it's nice because on the sides of these masks, you can use shoelaces like this. Like I had these old Ninja Turtle shoelaces lying around, or you can use hair ties. So I like that. So I'm gonna teach you guys how to make the pattern this week. And if you're interested in actually making one, you can sew along with me next week when we actually sew one together, okay?
All right, so the next step in making one of these patterns is going to be making it the right size for your face. Now, you guys don't know exactly what size your faces are offhand, so we're going to learn how to measure those real quick. A lot of times, too, by the way, if you wanted to, not a lot of people have printers at home anymore. It's 2020. People don't really use printers anymore. But I'm going to post a link to a website. You can print out a pattern like this, and they come in different sizes. You can cut them out. I've learned really quickly that the bigger the pattern, the better. It's okay to have a little bit of extra space underneath your chin or on the sides, but you don't want to have too little bit of space, okay? It's funny, that you're in a fashion class and now all of a sudden we're going to be making masks, but I've been making them for my friends and for my family, and it's been kind of fun. So if you follow along, you're going to be able to do that too, hopefully. A lot of people make these kind. My mother-in-law made me this one. She didn't realize I was making it myself, but she made me like this style, which goes over your ears. And you can do that with the mask I'm making, but as you can tell, my head's really big, and so this doesn't like to hold. Okay, so that's a lot. We don't need all this. And that's just when people cut the 6x9" square and pleat it and put it together. We're gonna make it just a little bit more concise, and so it'll just like fit right over your mouth, right over your nose, okay? So in order to do that, you actually need a pattern that looks like this. So this is the shape that we're going to be making today, all right? It's kind of an interesting shape. And I'm going to try to show you guys how to draw it. It's going to be kind of tricky because my document camera's not working, so I'm going to have to like hold my or my iPad with one hand while I draw with the other hand, just so I can show you how to draw it out. But it's a pretty simple shape to draw, and I usually just grab a piece of construction paper to draw it in, so it's a little thicker than regular paper. If you don't have that, you can use anything. You can have gift wrapping paper, fabric. You could use paper towel. Basically, as long as you have a pair of scissors and some sort of paper that you can draw on at home, it doesn't really matter. You can use anything you want. Because some of you guys are going to use this to actually make a mask, but others of you are just practicing learning how to make a pattern. And if that's all you're doing, you're making a pattern this week, that's totally fine with me. All right. So what I want you guys to do is you're going to just try to measure your face. If you have a measuring tape like this, that's great. If you just have a regular ruler, which I have just like this plastic ruler, you can do that. Or honestly, the easiest way to do it is simply to take your hand, okay? And what you want to do is you want to measure from right here, like kind of halfway up your nose, right there, to down underneath your chin, okay? So you can do that with your hand. And then we're going to take that measurement and we're going to make 2 marks on a piece of paper with that, all right? And then you can do the same thing. You want to kind of get out to here, you know what I mean, with the edges of your mask. You want them to be past your eyebrows, okay? So you can kind of do the same thing there so that you know that your mask piece will fit from here back here. Now looks bigger than it needs to be. You might look at that and go, that's too big, Mr. Donahue. But you're actually going to lose about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch all the way around all the edges, because that's going to be our seam allowance, which means that it's going to be the kind of the fabric that gets tucked inside of the mask. So when we make one of these here, inside of this, there's actually fabric that's folded down between these two layers. And you can't see it anymore, but that's how you get like nice, neat seams on your clothes. And by the way, if you guys are thinking about making a mask next week, I literally just found, I had an old Ninja Turtle bandana, and I took some of my old button-down shirts for the inside lining, and that worked really well too. So if you have any old shirts that you want to turn into a mask, you can do that. Woven fabric's better, so like cotton fabric that's stretchy, it's not as great to sew with, but if you have stuff that's woven, like button-down shirts and things like that, like your dad's got any old shirts, those work really, really well. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to show you how to draw this now.
All right, so like I said, I have to hold my camera with one hand while I videotape with another, so it makes it a little bit complicated. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to take that measurement you took of your face. So I know that I want to go from like here to here, right? So I'm going to start right around here and go to here. And so what I want to do is I want to make a mark right there and right there. So that's about that size from the bridge of my nose to underneath my chin right there. And so for most people, you're probably gonna be a little smaller than my face actually, but that's about, if we take a look with our ruler, that's about 6 inches, which seems about right. 6 inches seems pretty good. So that's where you're gonna wanna start, all right? And now what you're gonna do is, this is gonna be half the mask. You're gonna end up using this pattern to cut both sides of the mask out. So you need to remember the front half of it is curved. So like here's a piece of fabric that's already got my pattern on it, and see how the front is curved? And that's so if you could think about if you had like a person from the side, let me flip this over real quick. So you can imagine like if you had a face here from the side, you'd have, you know, your eyes, and then your nose, and then your mouth. Right? This person, their eyes, they're shut. There's their ear or whatever. But your mask has to go and cover here and swoop down like this. So this front part of the mask has to be curved in order to fit all this stuff inside of it, right? All right, so let's flip back over here. Okay, so we need to remember that we're making that curved shape. The amount that it's curved, if you screw up or if you make it too curved or not curved enough, it's really only gonna affect the fit. It's still gonna work. So what you wanna do is you kind of wanna take it and just try to do your best to give it like a kind of a shallow curve here. Like that. That's pretty good. I'm trying to do this so that you guys can see what I'm doing. All right. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna swoop back down like this and over. Okay, that's pretty good. And then we're gonna come down like this, and then we'll connect the bottom. Sorry, I'm really sorry, by the way, guys, if this video is shaky. I don't have like a paperweight or everything, so I'm trying to hold and draw at the same time, which is kind of tricky. Okay, so that's the shape that we're gonna make for our mask, if that makes sense. You would end up cutting out 4 of these out of fabric. You only need the 1 out of paper. And then what you do is you end up pinning, you take that and you're gonna pin it to your fabric, okay? All right, like that. And so then you would use it to make 4 of these. Why do I need 4? I need 2 for the front and 2 for the back fabric. And so you need to think about which way you're gonna use your fabric if you end up cutting it out, because you don't want your fabric to be the wrong way. All right, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next week.
For this week, your only assignment is, it's pretty simple. I just want you guys to think about making a pattern, well, how they're used, why they're used, and I want you to go ahead and cut one out of just a piece of paper. You don't have to do the fabric pattern. Just cut a simple one out of a piece of paper one time, put your name on it or whatever, take a picture of the cutout pattern, and send it in to me. And then if you are one of those people that are thinking like, oh, I do have a sewing machine at home, I would like to do this, try to gather up some fabric before next week and some thread, and I will do a little tutorial on how to sew this from home next week. And there's a lot of videos online too, so it's not too difficult. And for those of you who do not have a sewing machine, a little forewarning, next week I'm going to try to get everybody to make some sort of face covering or mask from class. Since we are in fashion design, I think it's really important, since masks are becoming a fashion statement, to kind of like work from that. And so you could think about maybe getting a sock, like a sock that is clean and that you don't care very much about. And I'm going to show you how to turn that into a face mask that you don't have to sew. You just make a couple cuts and it'll cover your face. Or you could just, be like a lot of people and just use a scarf or bandana and just tie it. But for the purposes of this class, I want everyone to be able to make something. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email. Shouldn't be too difficult. I am going to post a link so you can at least see the shape to this mask, all right, online. So my drawing, like I can tell right now, my drawing was a little small, but just remember, this is about 6 inches. And if you look, it's about 6 inches actually from here to here. Most patterns end a little bit short. I gave this one a little bit extra length because I actually like to fold it over at the end to loop so that it can hold the strap for my mask at the end. But basically, if you get that shape out of a piece of paper, you're golden for the week. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great one. If you have any questions, shoot me an email.